So the time has come to start your print-on-demand business, but how do you get started and what should your strategy be? There's a lot of important decisions that you need to make when you're starting your print-on-demand business, and how complicated you make it can be a determining factor in whether you actually stick with it. In this video, I want to talk about one option you have that I would recommend to anybody who's maybe feeling a little overwhelmed with all of the different aspects of starting a print-on-demand Etsy shop. Now, this strategy is also something you can absolutely do for Shopify or if you're selling on Amazon or other sales channels, but we're going to focus on Etsy in this video. All right, I want to point out that this video is mainly focused on anyone who's starting selling print on demand in 2024 or later who does not have experience selling products online. If you have online retail sales experience, then you've got some knowledge about, some of the aspects of what this business is going to be and perhaps marketing strategies. But if you are new to print on demand and to just selling online in general, it can be easy to get overwhelmed and you can fall victim to the number one mistake that new print on demand sellers make, and that is giving up. The number one difference between anybody who has a successful print-on-demand business and anybody who wound up not having a successful print-on-demand business is that one of them gave up and the other one didn't. And the pace at which you move forward can be different. It doesn't have to be, exploding to $1 million in sales in your first year or two, or even 100,000 or even 50,000. If you make a few $1,000s in sales, not profit, but in sales in your first year, that's fantastic. Just keep building at the pace that you can. How much free time you have varies from person to person, so don't expect the same results as any other particular person with your print-on-demand business, and don't give up. All right, so for the rest of this video, we're gonna focus on things that I think will help anybody who maybe is feeling a little overwhelmed and wants to keep things simple to get started. And you can absolutely be successful using this strategy and just do it long-term, basically forever, and never expand from it. And don't just take my word for it. Here are a couple of Etsy shops that were started within the last few years that have excellent sales records, high sales volume, and high revenue according to Allura research, and they still do the thing that I am going to talk about in this video. And that thing is the one product strategy. When you start an Etsy shop, you have a lot of decisions to make, but one of those decisions is what products are you going to sell? There's a lot of different products out there, but that is one of the things that can be overwhelming when you are brand new to all of this. Not knowing what products to put your different designs on, you can get caught up in that really fast and feel overwhelmed, and if you're not starting to see results, then it leads you to that point of potentially giving up. So one of the things you can do about that is pick one product when you get started and just focus on making your hundreds or even thousands of listings of just a single product. And then when you get experience under your belt, you will have a decision to make later. Either you expand your existing Etsy shop into additional products where you just offer the same designs on new products, or you create a whole new Etsy shop to focus on another type of product. Now, there are benefits and drawbacks to this one product method for getting started. The benefits, of course, are mostly that you can focus in on one thing and not be overwhelmed by trying to decide what other products do I need to put this on. You also don't need to spend time developing and figuring out how to make the best mock-up images for multiple products. You can focus on just one product, have a simple set of mock-ups, and just always use the same ones. When it comes to research, you also don't have to worry about research differences if you're trying to figure out what types of designs to sell. Now, there's really one main downside, and that is this feeling that you're going to have. It's unavoidable. You're going to have this feeling that you're missing out on sales by not offering your designs on other products. And in some cases, that will be true, but you're doing this for the benefit of yourself. You're doing it to make sure you're not getting overwhelmed, you're not overcomplicating your shop when you are new, and importantly, you're not spending a little bit of time on a lot of different things, you're spending a lot of time on one thing. And the consistency of the time you put into it is what will lead to your success over time. Not immediate, nothing is immediate, so don't expect that overnight success, even with this simplified strategy. Now, there's a lot of different directions that you can go. You could do a shop that is only t-shirts, only sweatshirts, only tote bags, only mugs, only stickers. But I personally think that for a beginner just starting out, one of the best products if you're gonna focus in on a single product is mugs. And there are a number of reasons for that. First of all, you don't get nearly the same number of customer service issues that you get with products like apparel. For example, even though your shop doesn't accept returns and states that clearly on your listings, when you sell apparel, you will still get some customers reaching out to you saying they don't like the size they bought, or they don't like the quality of the shirt and they want to return it, or they want to exchange it for a different size. But with mugs, there are really only two issues that you can have. Number one, the print might come out incorrect. It might come out with a bad quality print. It could be crooked, it could be faded. That happens from time to time, but all of the major print-on-demand platforms offer you free replacements when that happens. The second issue is if the mug arrives broken because of mishandling during shipping. And again, all the major print-on-demand platforms will offer you a free replacement for your customer if that happens. So the main two customer service potential issues that you can have with mugs are going to be resolved by your print-on-demand platform at no extra cost to you. So certainly make your own decision based on the designs you want to make, or if you have preferences for what products to sell. But if you're looking for a recommendation and you're interested in this one product strategy, I would recommend strongly considering starting with mugs. But once you've got your Etsy shop created, you've come up with the name for your business, you've opened your Etsy account, you've opened the shop, done all of the things you need to do, which in 2024 is going to include paying a $15 one-time shop setup fee, going through the identity verification, connecting a financial bank account to your seller account. Once you pass all of those hurdles, set up the basic information for your shop and create kind of some branding images for your shop's homepage, now you can focus in on what's the process going to be for creating your listings and where can you be efficient. Now, real quick, before we hop over and start looking at examples of how you can help save yourself some time in your product creation process, I would recommend also focusing in on one target market when you get started instead of selling to all possible countries. And this is a consideration that kind of looks differently depending on your sales platform, because if you are selling on Etsy, you have control over where your listings show up in search results just by what you put in your shipping profiles. We're focusing on Etsy in this video, and I personally recommend, again, another way to simplify things for yourself, at least at first, focus on one country. The main reason for this is that shipping and pricing gets a little bit more complicated when you start selling internationally, because what you're dealing with here is your print on demand, your print provider, the company that is going to print and ship your product. They have a physical location, of course. And if you sell to customers in multiple countries, you're gonna start dealing with international shipping, which has different pricing. You might be paying tax on these orders and the shipping. And there are some ways to simplify that as well. I have a whole video about the different options you have if you're using Printify for selling internationally. So check out that video if you wanna know more about it. But again, to simplify things for a brand new seller, I would say pick your target market and just remove every other country from your Etsy shipping profiles. Focus on that one country to get started. And I also want to point out, you're not hurting yourself later by doing that, because as long as you pay attention to your shipping profiles, which we'll look at in a second, and don't create a ton of different ones, if you use one shipping profile for all your one product listings, then later on you'll be able to go into that shipping profile and just add other countries as destinations, and your listings will just start showing up in search results for those other countries. All right, so we've decided we are gonna start our Etsy print-on-demand business in 2024 by selling mugs only in the United States for me, but you can pick your own, primary target market. Now we just need to select a print-on-demand platform and talk about the process. Now, I personally use Printify for 99% of my print-on-demand fulfillment. I do personally use Printful and Gelato and even occasionally Guten for specific products. But of course, we want to start out simple here, and we're starting out just with mugs. I personally use Printify for my mugs. There's nothing wrong with using any of the major print-on-demand platforms for mugs. I think Printful and Printify both have good product creation workflows. Gelato is also good and a great option if you plan eventually on selling internationally, because they have locations all over the world. So you might want to think ahead if you eventually definitely want to sell internationally. But for this video, we're going to stick with Printify. Now let's hop over to the computer and we'll talk through some ways that you can help simplify the process of creating your products, as well as doing some niche research for what designs to create. All right, so to walk through an example of kind of getting a process together for creating your listings for this single product shop strategy, we're going to use this Etsy shop that I created a while ago actually and haven't really done anything with. So I created this Etsy shop. I call it the Humble Mug. I just thought of that name quite a while back. I wanted to snag the name before somebody else took it, so I created this Etsy shop. I haven't really done anything with it. You can see there's one active listing here. I thought this would be a great shop as an example for this video to just show what might my process look like. Now, one of the best examples I could give you actually for getting started researching what designs to make if you don't have an idea would actually be a very recent video that I published, depending on when you're watching this, but it's the video right before this one on my channel, and it's about creating Mother's Day designs. In that process, I talked about how to find some niches that are more specific, less super general, you know. Now, competition shouldn't scare you away from niches in general. So don't think you can't try to create designs for niches that have decent amounts of competition. But you also want to play the odds a little bit here. So I recommend using a research tool, not to overanalyze. You don't want to get analysis paralysis and just spend all of your time researching, but I do like to use a research tool. So for example, Allura is one that I mentioned earlier. I like Allura. They offer a great suite of products. They have a great email marketing option as well. Allura does have keyword research. They have a Chrome extension that allows you to see the tags and sales analysis for competitor listings when you're looking at them right on Etsy. Allura is not the least expensive research tool out there, but I like the package that they offer. If you are looking for a tool to get started actually for free and just do some basic keyword research, eRank is one I definitely recommend. They do have paid plans, but they also have a free plan. All it does is limit how many of the searches for keyword research you can do per day, but it is totally free. So I would recommend checking out eRank if you're not ready to invest any dollar amount in a research tool yet. For example, all I did here was search for dog mom mug. So this is what I mean by getting a little more specific than the super general niches. And then when we scroll down, we're going to see some analysis of related phrases in addition to just dog mom mug, but we'll see that as well. So you can see we've got 730 searches per month. We have a lot of competition for that phrase on Etsy, but this is where I would get the idea to start looking at specific dog breeds. And again, this is the example from that recent video I made. So I will link to that video in the description in the corner so you can kind of see the full process for identifying some dog breeds. But let me just hop over and show you the designs that I came up with in that video. This is using another tool, and this is another option you have. So if you have your research tool selected, whether that's the free eRank account or one of the paid accounts with any of the tools out there, you also need to decide how you're going to create your designs. And that includes A, your tool of choice, meaning what software are you going to use, and B, how are you going to source graphics? Now, if you create graphics, if you're a graphic designer, then you've got that covered most likely. If you're not, like me, then you have a few choices. You can use a service, a paid service like Creative Fabrica. They offer fonts as well as graphics. So you can usually find print-on-demand graphics on sources like this. These are very affordable. Creative Fabrica is a great one for newer sellers because it's only about $59 for a whole year, and you get access to tons of graphics. For example, if I just run a quick search for French Bulldog, because we were looking at the dog mom, let's say I wanted one that was good for that design. If I check the box for print on demand, it means I'm going to see the right licensing. Here's a ton of graphics I could use for my, French Bulldog mom mug that I'm creating. I also recommend checking out Kittl. Kittl is sort of an all-in-one tool. It's a little bit like Canva, except a little more advanced and focused on creating designs for print on demand products. So it's a little bit more of a narrow focus than Canva, which is a little bit more all-purpose. You can absolutely use Canva to create your designs. There's nothing wrong with that. You can also use classic tools like Photoshop. There's nothing wrong with that either. I personally like Kittl because it makes some things easy like Canva does, but it's also more focused for print on demand type designs. And these dogs that are in these designs that I created, these were AI image generated by Kittl. Kittl has an AI image generator that works really well now. In its early stages, it wasn't that great, but now it's gotten to a place where it's creating really nice images for print on demand designs. Now, I created these in an aspect ratio or size for t-shirts or sweatshirts, but I wouldn't do much different here for creating a mug design. I would just make this more of a square file size versus the tall portrait size for apparel. So you've done a little research, you've identified a niche or two that you want to create designs for, you've identified what tool you want to use and how you're going to get some graphics for those designs. You've created at least one design that you want to use on your first listings. Now you need to create those listings. And this is where you can certainly gain some efficiency. So if you're creating your first listing using Printify, the process looks a little different for each print-on-demand platform, but as I mentioned, we're going to use Printify for this video. Of course, you do have to sync Printify to your Etsy account. That is simple though. Right when you create your Printify account, one of the very first steps is to connect it to your Etsy account. But assuming you don't have any of these products like I already have created in my account, so you would have a blank page here. If you haven't created any yet, you would go to your catalog in your menu and you would find mugs under home and living. And here you would select the mug style that you want to use for your shop. Now you've got a few options and a few print providers. I am focusing on the US, so I have that selected over here in the target market. I personally use District Photo because I think they have the best balance of price. And even if you don't have Printify Premium, which is the paid subscription to Printify that gets you lower pricing, the pricing is still, I think, the lowest from District Photo in terms of the printing cost and the shipping. So the first thing you would do is select your product from the catalog. This is the 11-ounce mug from District Photo. We'll click on Start Designing here. And now we're going to be in our design editor. We have to go through this the first time, all the steps manually, because we need to create at least one listing and then we can save some time after this. So let's use one of those t-shirt designs that I made for a dog breed. We'll do the golden retriever one first. All you have to do is either upload it here on the left menu, or if you've already uploaded it, you select it from your library. We're going to place this on the left and the right side of this mug with a goal of having it centered on the left and the right side here, while also filling up as much of the vertical space as we can. All right, I'm going to duplicate that up here, move it over to the other side, and I'm going to go through this a little bit quickly because this video is not about this in granular detail. This is more about the overall process. I'm just going to click on preview here in the top right, and we'll check out the preview of this design. I'm also going to go ahead and add a background image of my own that I uploaded. I have a whole video about this, so check that out. The link's in the description if you want to know how to add your own backgrounds to Printify mockups. All right, so there's a mockup of the mug, and I've got my background added to it, so it's not just plain white. There's also some additional mockups that are pretty good here, Printify provides. I'm gonna click on Save Product once I'm happy with my design placement, and here are the details of our first mug listing for our shop. Now we need to give this a title, and I don't recommend doing the keyword stuffing in the title. What we wanna do is have a few relevant keywords. The first phrase is the most important, but we want to make sure that we don't try to stuff a million keywords and have a super long title here. Now, I also recommend using your keyword research tool of choice to identify the best phrases that have search volume for your titles and your tags. And you can kind of combine that process into one action when you are researching the design as well. But for example, all I have here is Golden Retriever Mom Mug and Golden Mom Coffee Mug in my title, just to get a couple different versions of something similar. Now, in my description, this is where I want to put a description of the design itself and also keep some of the standard details. However, this is one place where you can set yourself up to save time in the future. I recommend coming up with a standard description that contains 99% of what you need in your listing descriptions and saving it in whatever you like to use, either some notes app or Microsoft Word, whatever you want to use to save this so that you can paste it whenever you need it. Just come up with this sort of standard description. Everything from the row, the stars down here is my standard listing description for all of my mug listings. So if I copy that, I will paste it in here. And now you'll see I have sections in here that describe what the mug product is. It does note 2 sizes, more on that in just a minute. It notes what my production and shipping times are, what my return policy is, what the printing process is. That's just standard in all my listings. I do, of course, want to take out the default top here and write my own description. I don't like to get super lengthy with my descriptions, but I do like to make sure I've got some repeated keywords in here. Etsy does include the beginning of your description in search ranking for the keyword. So a description just like this, just a couple sentences that describe the product and includes those keywords, is perfect. For shipping, if we pretend this is my first listing and I don't have that one that's already active in there, we're just gonna leave this as automatically assign a new shipping profile. What this is gonna do is it's gonna create a new shipping profile on Etsy for us that's gonna match the shipping cost from this print provider. Now, assuming I'm gonna use this same print provider for all my mugs, that's exactly what I need. But we are gonna make changes to it once we publish this, and then we're gonna reuse the same shipping profile on every listing, so we have just one profile and it's not overcomplicated. But since this is the first one, go ahead and let Printify create it. Now we need to set our price here, and I've actually talked about pricing for products in a lot of different videos. So I'll kind of give you the short version of this here. What you're going to see here is a default retail price that Printify sets. We definitely want to change this. You can ignore, I'll repeat that, ignore what Printify says about profit and profit margin, because we're going to sell this on Etsy. Etsy charges fees on every sale. Printify is not taking those fees into consideration here. So please ignore what Printify says about profit and profit margin here, because it is not accurate for selling on Etsy. However, what you do want to use is what it says for production cost and shipping cost, because this is your cost. So how do you figure out what your price should be? Well, you use an Etsy fee calculator, and Allura actually has one that is free. You don't need to have a paid Allura account to use this calculator. I will link to this in the description. All you have to do in here is put in your cost and a target selling price, and it will calculate your profit. So $10.28 was my total cost. That includes both shipping and the printing or fulfillment cost of the product. Now, my selling price is going to be a combination of both what I'm going to charge for the mug and what I'm going to charge for shipping. There's only one field here, so we add them together because that is the total that we are going to get on our Etsy orders, both shipping and product price combined. If you haven't done this before, just take a guess. You see what your cost is here? Just take a stab at what you want to get in terms of a total cost. For example, I'll put in $18 and click on calculate. Then I scroll down and I see here that my total profit, if I charged a total of $18, is $5.56 or 31%. That's not a bad profit margin as far as a print-on-demand product goes, but I want to be able to occasionally run a sale and maybe offer a coupon code for 10% off or something like that, and I don't want to go below 31%. So I'm going to set my regular pricing a little bit higher. Let's say the total I get is $19.99. That is going to give me a profit margin of 37%, which is a little bit better. That way, if I run a 10% off sale, I'm not dropping down into the 20s for profit margin. So the total that I need to get is $19.99. That does not mean I'm going to charge $19.99 for the mug. It means I'm going to charge $19.99 total with the product price and the shipping combined. Now, here is where you apply some of your own life experience as a consumer. As somebody who has probably bought a mug before, how much would you say is a reasonable price for a mug like this? This is a basic white mug. And how much is a reasonable amount to pay for shipping? You know that mugs are delicate and they're heavier than something like a t-shirt, so you expect to pay a little bit for shipping. But what sounds reasonable to you as a customer? Personally, what I think sounds reasonable is $13.99 for the price of the mug and then $6 for the shipping price. Now, $6 happens to be less than what my actual shipping cost is. How can I do that? Well, again, remember, it's all just about the total. We don't actually care about how much shipping costs, how much the product costs. What we care about is the total of those two. And I just did the math to figure out that $13.99 plus $6 is going to get me $19.99 for each mug that I sell, which is going to be a 37% profit margin, and that's what I wanted. So that's why we're going to have to adjust the shipping profile on Etsy after we publish this. All right, so now I'm going to go through the publishing settings here. What I recommend on the bottom here as far as settings go, if you're not ready for this to actually be live, you can check the box to hide it in the store, but I'm ready for it to be published and able to purchase, so I'm going to uncheck that. And I also recommend doing show all variants as available for purchase because there's only one variant here. It's an 11-ounce mug and I know it's in stock, so I'm just going to allow that. Don't change anything else and click on publish, and that is your first listing. But we're not quite done yet. There is something else we need to go do on Etsy, and we also need to update that shipping profile before we can make our next listing. All right, back on Etsy, let's update our shipping profile first, and then we will go and finish what we need to finish with that first listing. So on your dashboard on Etsy, go to settings and then go to shipping settings. Now your first tab here is shipping profiles. And what you want to do is find that shipping profile that you just created. Now, if you have only done one listing, that truly was the first one and you only have connected one print-on-demand platform, you won't see these other ones that are here. You will just see the one that came through, and that is this one here. It says Standard District Photo 11-ounce ceramic mugs. So what we want to do here is click on the pencil icon to edit this. And we're going to do a couple of things. First off, we're going to rename this. You can name it anything you want. I'm just calling this Printify mug profile. Now, I'm not going to change the country of origin or the origin zip code. Those are correct for the print provider that I used. The processing time, This came through with information from Printify, so you could leave it. I personally know it's actually a little quicker right now than this, so I'm going to change it to 2 to 5 business days instead of 3 to 6 or 4 to 6, whatever it said. Now, remember one of the things I said for this single product strategy for keeping things really simple to get started, and that was only selling in your primary target market and not getting too complicated with international selling, at least not at first. So I'm going to come in here and I'm going to use the trash can icon here to get rid of all the other countries that are destinations until all I'm left with is the United States. And what that does is that will make this listing not show up in any search results for customers that are located in those other countries. Only United States customers will actually be able to complete checkout with this product, and they are the only ones who will see it in search results. And as I mentioned earlier, this really doesn't create a problem or a headache for you because later on, if you do want to expand to sell in 2 or 3 or 4 countries, all you have to do is come back to this shipping profile because we're going to use this same shipping profile for all of our listings and add those locations back, and you'll be all set, and they'll be available for sale immediately in those other countries. So you're not hurting yourself by limiting it now. Now, I also am going to change the shipping service here because Etsy does not really like the other method. They've started cracking down on this. They've actually started showing like an error message if you have shipping profiles with other. I'm just going to select the slowest available option for the United States, which is USPS Parcel Select. At least on Etsy, that's the slowest one I can pick. So that's what I'm going to pick. Now, when it comes to pricing, remember, we have one more change to make here because we said we're going to charge $13.99 plus $6. So I'm going to change this to $6. For additional items, you can leave it as exactly what it came through with. So I'm going to go ahead and leave that the same. So go ahead and click save there. And right now that only affects one listing, but it will affect all my listings eventually. All right, now we can go over to our listings option on the left navigation here, and we can find our listing that just published. Of course, you'll only see one if that was the first one you published. Click on that one to open it up. There's at least one thing here you absolutely must do for each listing that you create, but there are a couple of other optional things as well. One optional thing would be to make sure that you have all of the mockups that you wanted, but I would have selected a few more of the ones available here on Printify. You can add more of these optional ones by checking these little boxes, and then they will come through the listing. So I would recommend filling up your 10 image slots. But one optional thing would be to scroll down a little bit and then click on where it says adjust thumbnail. I do this just to emphasize the design a little bit. I zoom in on this zoom slider so that the design is nice and big and easy to read in search results, because that's what we're doing here. The thumbnail is what a shopper will see in search results, and I want to make sure it's really easy for them to read. So I'm going to zoom in a little bit and then click on done. Now from this view, you can also add the alt text for your thumbnail image. So to add a little description, and that's for accessibility reasons. So I certainly would encourage you to do that. All right, now we're done with that. We can click on apply down in the corner, and that will adjust our thumbnail. Now we don't have to do anything to the description here. We don't have to add the personalization option because this is not a design that you can personalize. We don't have to do anything with the price, the quantity, or the SKU number or variations unless we're going to be adding a 15-ounce option. I have a whole video dedicated to how to do that, how to add the 15-ounce option into the same listing. It takes a few minutes to do that for each of your listings, but if you want to do that, I will link to that in the description and in the corner so you can go see how to add another size option to your mug listings. Now, when you scroll down further under details, under core details, there is something we need to change here. So where this says physical item, click on the change button. It'll give you a pop-up. What you need to do is click on who made it, click on another company or person because you did not make this product. You want to leave this as made to order and then click on select your production partner and select Printify. Now, if you haven't added Printify yet, you would have this option to create a new production partner, and that is what you would want to do. You'd want to create a new production partner, give them a name. You have to put in a description that is not visible to the customer. You have to put in a location. I always just put in Printify's headquarters in the United States. And then for the information on the bottom here, you would select, I don't have the equipment needed to make it by myself. Your role is I design everything myself. And then the last option here is they do everything for me. So essentially you're saying I'm the designer and they do the production. And then you would click on save and you would have them as a production partner. So you do need to do that for each of your listings. You need to make sure that Etsy is aware you didn't make the physical item, but you created the design and who the production partner is. That's an important piece that you do need to change. Now, an optional thing is you can add the capacity in here. If you're only going to do one option, you can throw in 11 ounce. You can say it is dishwasher safe because the ones from Printify are dishwasher safe. But one One last sort of non-optional thing is your tags. You have to put in your tags. I recommend filling up all 13 tags every time if possible. And these are additional keywords that are important for Etsy to use when matching what someone is searching for, the phrase they're using in the search, with your listing. Things like golden retriever mom, I definitely would put in my tags. Now, you don't need to put the name of your product in all of these tags because Etsy does that for you. Etsy knows this is a mug, so it will automatically use the word mug when it's matching your tags and your title up against the search query from the customer. So you don't need to have the word mug in here 13 times. However, if there's a different word for your product, you can do that. You don't necessarily need to do it a bunch of times, but for example, someone might search for golden retriever cup instead of golden retriever mom. You can throw that variation of the product term into your tags if there's a common alternate word for your product. So there's just a few examples for this listing, but keep going until you get all 13 for each of your listings. I do recommend that. And you can use your research tool as well to help you identify tags. All right, we don't have to edit the shipping option because we've got our Printify mug profile assigned here. We don't have to fill out anything else. You don't need to do anything with size and weight because we are charging a fixed price for shipping. There's nothing else that you're going to need to do here. Part of your shop setup process would have been creating your no returns policy. So I do have a separate video about that. So we're not going to talk about it here. And if you have shop sections set up, you can add each listing to a section. I don't have any right now. If you sell one type of product only, so this shop is going to be all mugs, I could create sections based on types of designs. I could create shop sections based on holidays or things like that, but that's really optional. And that's really just, it applies to your shop homepage and how your listings are arranged. Now, if you participate in Etsy ads, you can also opt in to have this listing advertised. That's a whole separate conversation. And you do have to pay for Etsy ads even if you're not making sales. If they get clicked on, you will get charged for it. So that is one of those things. I personally would recommend promoting your products on social media rather than doing paid ads, at least at first. So check out my videos that I will link in the description that have to do with promoting your Etsy listings on Instagram and Pinterest. Those are two great options to get started. Renewal options. I have a whole separate video about this. I recommend manual. Every time we publish a listing on Etsy, we get charged 20 cents. That's going to happen right now. And it's also going to happen for every time this listing renews. If I select automatic, this listing will renew every time it would normally expire and charge me 20 more cents. I personally don't like that because if this listing never sells, it will still charge me 20 cents every time it renews. And that happens every 4 months. So 3 times per year, I will get charged 20 cents if I have automatic on here, even if this listing never makes a sale. So that's the bottom line of that. I do have a separate video where I talked about it, but that's pretty much it. And that's my whole explanation for it. I always select manual because I want the control over which listings renew and which ones don't. All right, with all that said, now we can click on Publish Changes and our listing is done. So how is this process faster from this point forward? That probably seemed like a lot to go through, and this video is way longer than I wanted it to be already, but how can this be faster for each time we do it again? Well, first of all, each time you go through your research process and then your design process, you're going to get a little bit quicker at it if you weren't quick at it to begin with. But most importantly, the listing process is where you can save some time. So remember our listing that we just created. We have it now on our My Products page on Printify. Instead of creating a new listing from scratch when we're ready to do that next design, maybe I'm going to do that French Bulldog mom design next, I am going to instead click on the duplicate button here. So I'm just going to make a copy of that one I just created. So this copied everything from that listing. And what I'm going to do now is click on the paintbrush to edit the design. I'm going to come into this design editor, delete the golden retriever images. I'm going to upload my new design that I just created. And then I'm going to do the exact same thing I did with the golden retriever one. We'll make it the appropriate size so that it is centered properly on either side of the mug. We will check out our preview. And the cool thing about copying these again is the background you applied also carries forward, so you don't have to do that each time as well. Looks good to me, so I'll click on Save Product. Now here's some additional time savings. I, of course, need to change my title and my description, but remember I copied this so that lengthy description with all those standard default details, that's already there. Don't need to do any of that. So change my title. And actually, because this is a sort of a repeated design with just a different dog breed, I don't even really have to change that much of the description. All I have to do is go and find Golden Retriever and change it to French Bulldog. So this style of design that you can repeat with multiple different just variables also saves you a lot of time. There we go. Now I can scroll down, and this is important. Do not let Printify create a new shipping profile for this listing, remember, because we already have one that's exactly all the right details for all of our mugs. So click on this dropdown and find the one that you just updated. And that one was the Printify mug profile. So that's the one we just edited. Make sure you select that. Do not let Printify create separate shipping profiles for all of your listings. That would create a headache for you later if you ever need to change them. Now, our pricing also carried forward since we copied it. It's $13.99, so we don't need to change a thing there. And that's it. I'm ready to hit publish, and now that's going to go over to Etsy. Then I can hop over to Etsy, make sure I go in and edit those couple of things we need to edit, and move on to the next one. So you can see how each time you do this, you do have some opportunities to become more and more efficient and create multiple designs per day so that you can scale up and actually stick with this. If you don't take anything else away from this video, if none of these strategies or tips worked for you, the thing that I want you to take away is don't give up, because print on demand is a long game. Anybody that is successful within the first year has done a lot of things right to do that, and that's great for them. But if you're not successful in the first 6 months or 12 months, it will work for you if you stick with it. So that'll do it for this video. Thanks for watching to the end if you're hearing this and watching this now. I appreciate you taking the time to watch it from beginning to end. Don't forget to subscribe to the POD Insights channel. Thanks to all subscribers. I really do appreciate your support. Thanks, everybody. See you next time.